Good morning, all of you. And today we are starting a new lesson named the Rat Trap. So the Rat Trap. Well, hearing the topic of the lesson, the Rat Trap, you can also think that rat and of course trap. Trap. What is the meaning trap? And you know what is the meaning rat? Rat trap. And I can just play this video just to watch that. Then we
Put
will.
a spring-loaded trap door. Turn it this way so you can see how to catch the
This is the
rats.
rat trap.
You'll put bait
And
inside.
how we are
The rats will
catching
step
a
on this. It
rat
will go down.
by
They'll climb in the
using
trap to get the
bait.
bait, and when they step off the door, it closes. There's a wire there holding it in place. So in theory, you can catch multiple rats as they go in the trap and step off it, as long as they don't let their friends out. Now in the morning, you can release them through a door in the back, or you can throw it in a bucket of water, depending on your preference. Now I'm curious if this works, if the rats will actually go inside. So let's go set up the motion camera, see if we can get some rats.
A rat is being stimulated by a bait. You know what is the meaning bait? Which one we are using to catch the stimulate something, maybe a flesh or something dried, whatever it is, pork and cheese. So something we are providing, cheese or pork as a bait to catch a rat,
This wire cage rat trap from India worked well.
and of course it
This
is
rat
being
went in there,
caught.
wanted to get the bait, stepped
We
on the
got
door,
that.
climbed inside, closed behind him, and now he's caught. Now this is a native wood rat. It's not an invasive Norway rat or black rat. So I'm going to take it far out in the wild and let it go.
But we will not leave late. Yes, just a minute. Yes, sir. So take your textbook 32, page number 32. The Rat Trap is the lesson by Selma Lagerlöf. Take while seeing the topic also, we will identify something. It is rat trap is an equipment for catching rats, and of course cage we consider. And in that we are just keeping something to catch, something stimulation and seduce, like so stimulation we are having, and of course we have that is that's like it is a diplomatic way, and we are using our brain and ideas and of course methodologies to catch. So something, it is that is which is we are keeping inside to stimulate rats, known as bait. You know what is the meaning bait? So it's like the big rat trap here was nothing, and here we are taking that, and it offered riches and joy, shelter and food, and heat and clothing, exactly as the rat trap offered cheese and pork. And as soon as anyone let himself be tempted to touch the bait, it closed in on him, and of course, and then everything came to an end. This is a paragraph from our lesson. So I will tell you that before starting the lesson, we have to just discuss the author Selma Lagerlöf, 1858 to 1940, was a Swedish writer whose stories have been translated into many languages. It is like fables. You have come across. So here, Selma Lagerlöf was a Sweden from Sweden, and Swedish writer whose stories have been translated into many languages, in the sense it is reaching. You understand that it is reaching, right? So stories have been translated into many languages, and a universal theme runs through all of them. That is very important. You can also underline that a universal theme runs through all of them, in the sense in her work, in the work of Selma Lagerlöf. And then you can also see that a belief that the essential goodness in a human being can be awakened through understanding and love. This is the ultimate objective of the story, the rat trap. You can also have a closed bracket. This is a theme, a central idea of the lesson, the a belief that the essential goodness in a human being can be awakened through understanding and love. This is what, something, they are all, it is human to be appreciated. All the human beings are expecting, appreciations, like something whenever we are providing, we can also awaken like. So here a belief that the essential goodness, what is the meaning goodness in a human being? That means, that transformation from a convict to a human being. We can also have, it's like, Valmiki's life, and some of the creatures we have, that some of the, even some iconic leaders we have, that they also got transformation by that. They transformed from something from one to another, and of course they became popular, and of course they are nowadays big personalities, something, it's like even inspiring personalities for the youngsters, like. So I believe that the essential goodness in a human being can be awakened through understanding and love. This story is set amidst the mines of Sweden. You know what is the meaning mines? And it is like pure quarries. We can also write mines of Sweden, rich in iron and of course ore. Rich in iron and of course ore. And which figure large in the history and legends. Underline the word legends means stories. Legends means stories, you write. Legends means piece of fiction or stories of that country, which is, the story is set amidst in the mines of Sweden, that particular place, which is very famous and rich in iron and of course war, and which figure large in the history and legends of that country. The story is told somewhat in the manner of a fairy tale. I already told you fables, right? And that's why it was very famous. And of course, stories have been translated into many languages. So here the story is told somewhat in the manner of fairy tale. You underline the word, what is the meaning fairy tale? Fairy tale, through that we are giving a moral. What is the meaning moral of a lesson? The moral of the story is, right? And the notice these expressions in the text, infer the meanings from the context. And of course here, keep body and soul together. So keep body and soul together, and plots along the road. Plots along the road. Impenetrable prison. You underline the word impenetrable prison. That means, uh, uh, can't be, opened or touched, like. So impenetrable, everlasting, long lasting prison, so impenetrable prison, and east is way, things have gone downhill, hunger gleamed in his eyes, and unwanted joy, nodded a hearty consent, and fallen into a line of thought. So notice his expressions in the text and infer the meaning from the context. Keep body and soul together, float along the road, impenetrable prison, east is way, things have gone downhill, hunger gleamed in his eyes, unwanted joy, and nodded a hearty consent, and fallen into a line of thought. We will discuss in the when we have the lesson, right? So now you can see that it is a story. So once upon a time, it's like, we used to have that practice. Once upon a time, sir, are you all hearing me, sir? Are you all hearing? Am I audible?
Yes, sir.
Yes. So once upon a time, there was a man who went around selling small rat traps of wire. So rat traps of wire, he made them himself at odd moments from the materials he got by baking in the stories or at the big farms. But even so, the business was not especially profitable. So he had to resort to both baking and petty thievery to keep body and soul together. You can also see that. So even so, his clothes were in rags, and his cheeks were shrunken, and hunger gleamed in his eyes. So the first paragraph, while you can just discuss, you can also get an idea. So it is like tramp. Have you heard the word tramp? Tramp means narodi. In Tamil, we are saying that, or we can also go for vagabond. So here, vagabond, or we say that tramp. Tramp means we consider who's like a beggar, who doesn't have anything, and of course he is wandering here and there because nobody is there to take care of him. That's why here you can also take that. So here, a tramp, or we can consider vagabond. Vagabond. Vagabond means a person is like a beggar. So here, once upon a time, and if he is giving that, that means, the narrator is giving, the author is giving, like, once upon a time there was a man. So once upon a time, and there was a beautiful forest. The beautiful forest, likewise we started with fairy tales, and of course many moral stories related to that we have also got. So here see, the narrative started like that. Once upon a time there was a man who went around selling small rat traps. That was his business line. And of course rat traps of wire, who made, he made them, he only prepared, he prepared or made them himself at odd, underline the word here, all odd means maybe irregular or sometimes odd moments or irregular moments from the material he got by baking in the stores. So something wherever he went for baking, and of course he got some additional materials. By that he prepared and he wanted to sell, so that wherever he went, of course he also tried to sell the things, sell the rat traps. So he made them himself at odd moments from the materials he got by baking in the stores or at the big farms. Or at the big farms, what is the meaning farms? But even so, when he was doing the business, even so, the business was not especially profitable. So nobody was willing to buy because of his, maybe his image, and of course his dress code. He was something dirty enough. By looking at this, nobody will have a business, and of course association with him. That's why nobody was getting from him. So that business was became especially profitable, not no, was not especially profitable in the sense, by that he could not get anything. So he had to resort to both baking. Underline the resort means you are forced to do something. So he had to do forced to do both baking and petty thieveries. Underline that, petty thievery in the sense, it's like theft, THEF, theft, and of course small stealings like. So petty thievery means a small, right? Small, even stealing like. So here both baking as well as, you understand, both baking and petty thievery to keep body and soul together. This is what the first meanings we have got, that keep body and soul together in the sense for his survival. I have a close to bracket, keep body and soul together in the sense for his remaining life, for his survival. He just started to do small baking and of course small thievery. That's why. So but even so the business was not especially profitable, so he had to resort to both baking and the petty thievery to keep body and soul together in the sense for his remaining survival. Even so, his clothes, while looking at him, even so, his clothes were in rags. Underlying the word, what is the meaning rags in the sense totally, old, torn clothes, old, and of course torn to or and torn clothes. That means that was in a different, our clothes were in a different, image. That means totally collapsed, and of course dirty enough, and without washing or properly stitching. So whatever he got it from others, of course he started to use that. And here even so his clothes were in rags and his cheeks were sunken. So while looking at that, it is like paper swimming bath. You can also remember the poem we have come across, that the second poem in elementary school classroom in a slum by Stephen Spender. In that slum area, those who were sitting in the elementary school classroom in a slum, and there was a boy whose name who was looking like totally paper swimming boy. So here, while looking at that, paper seeming like his cheeks were sunken. That means, totally while looking at that image, that sunken here, hollow or falling inward, and of course inward, his cheeks were sunken means it is like paper seeming. While looking at the boy, it is related to maybe malnutrition or something starvation. You know what's the meaning? Starvation, starving for food like. And hunger hunger, and of course by looking at this image, his cheeks were sunken and hunger gleamed in his eyes. That also then we have come across that hunger, hungry, and of course hunger gleamed, shone. You can also underline the word gleamed here, shone or shining in his eyes. While looking at that, we will identify he is starving, and of course he is from starvation or poverty stricken. That's why. You understand that this is the background, and of course the image of the particular term are vagabonds, or we are taking that rat trap seller, or we can go for a vagabond. So vagabond or rat trap seller or a tramp, and of course we can take a person who was selling rat traps. Rat traps, yeah, we can consider rat trap seller. Understand that? And no one can imagine how sad and monotonous life can appear to such a vagabond. You underline the vagabond means, rat trap seller or a baker, we consider that no one can imagine, and the author is giving us another additional things. You can also see that no one can imagine how sad and monotonous life can appear to such a vagabond who plods along the road. You underline the word plods means you are maybe it's like wandering or walking here and there along the road and left to his own meditations. We have come across some of the rishis or munivo. We consider that, and some sages and those who are it's like given up. What is the meaning given up or abandoned, and nobody is there to take care of them. They are all with a different dress code, and of course their dress code is clothes. Their clothes were in rags, and of course their cheeks were sunken, and of course anger gleamed in their eyes. We might have seen, of course, come across. And they are, so it's like some of the, we can also say they are like mad, and of course mad or crazy, like they are all baking and disturbing the others, those who are going here and there, like we have come across some of the personalities, right? So that's why here the author is saying that no one can imagine how sad and monotonous life. What is the meaning monotonous means? The same thing repeated, a repeated life. And they don't have anything. They don't have even shelter. They don't have even neighbors. They don't have even family members, even siblings, father and mother. Nothing they have. And of course they are separated from the normal family life. That's why they are all wandering here and there along the roadside. And of course we are all simply saying that loose ஆற்றுகள்னு சொல்லுவோம், while easily we are saying that. So no one can imagine. Here the author is giving us, that means to the readers to understand the concept. No one can imagine how sad and of course monotonous life can appear to such a vagabond. That means to a baker, or we are saying that maybe an orphan or something abandoned or given up, and something who left, who plods along the roads, in the sense wandering, plods here walking here and there, and of course along the roadside, and left to his own meditations, in the sense sometimes we might have seen that something they were singing, and of course they were falling into them, something thinking, and of course their subconscious mind something, and of course they are laughing themselves, smiling themselves, they will speak something, and of course they are even singing a song and enjoying, and their own meditations, underlying the word here, and that means own meditations here, their own thinking and speaking, their own thinking and speaking. So that's why here the author is saying that no one can imagine and of course understand how sad and monotonous life can appear to such a vagabond who plods along the roadside, and of course left to their own meditations. But one day, this man had fallen into a line of thought. You underline the word. This is what that also we came across. Fallen into a line of thought means maybe fallen. Maybe fallen or fell, and of course got or something thought. So here, but one day this man, that means that red trap seller or baker or tramp or a vagabond, or we have the protagonist of the story. So but one day this man had fallen into a line of thought means, you underline that, a line of thought means maybe a thought, maybe a philosophy. What is the meaning of philosophical thoughts? They only give us something, those who experienced a lot. So those who experienced, he was experienced, that's why. But one day this man had fallen into a line of thought means an idea came, and of course an idea came to his mind, and of course he fell into his thought, and of course at last, which really seemed to him entertaining. That means when he fell into his thought, that thought was really entertaining him. So which really seemed to him entertaining. What is the meaning entertaining? He was very happy with the thought, because he was, that was like a philosophy. So we have too many things. We can also get we can also get many things from even Socrates, Aristotle, Plato, even Alexander the Great, and some of the greatest personalities, and who were the philosophers once, and of course they had given their thoughts and ideas to many things, right? And of course Dalai Lama's wonderful philosophy. Happiness is not which something is not ready-made. We have to get from our own actions, like. So here, entertaining, he had naturally been thinking of his rat traps when suddenly he was struck by the idea that the whole world, and he was thinking, once again you can also see that, you can also see that he had naturally been thinking of his rat trap when suddenly he was struck by the idea that idea was that the whole world about him The whole world, with its lands and seas, its cities and villages, was nothing but a big rat trap. You understand that? Here we have the connectivity with the rat trap and of course the world. So since he was a rat trap seller and he prepared himself, that means he made them in himself at odd moments from the material he got by baking in the stores or at the big farms. So he prepared himself. The whole world, with its lands and seas, its cities and villages, was nothing but a big rat trap. It had never existed for any other purpose than to set baits for people. You can underline the word. What is the meaning bait? Which is a stimulation. By that only, you are getting that. Whatever we prepare, for an example, cheese or pork or a flesh or whatever it is, whatever we are keeping inside the rat trap, for getting, or we can go for the catching the rat. So here you can also see that. So sea, and of course here the whole world with its lands and of course a sea and its cities and villages was nothing but a big rat trap. It had never existed for any other purpose than to set bait for people. You understand that whatever we have, for an example, our education, or even the post, that means politics, we have a seats, we have something that maybe rights, and of course our posting, our education, or whatever the desire we have. Even many of them are working for only money. It is related to materialism. So whatever the desire we have, human beings and of course all the living beings. So here, and very cleverly he was mentioning that it had never existed for any other purpose than to set baits. You underline the word baits means which is a point. A foot as a lure, we can. Bait means food as lure. L-U-R-E, lure. That means here something we keep inside to catch. That means stimulate the living being or human being. Inside the rat trap means for stimulating or inducing the rats to come inside. By that we will close his life, its life. Likewise for a human being, whatever we have, for example, posting or money or something, that any desire, any like we have that. So here you can also see that was nothing but a big rat trap. The whole world for him that was entertaining. The whole world with its lands and seas, its cities and villages was nothing but a big rat trap. It had never existed. That means it here for any other purpose than to set bait for people. And it offered riches and joys, whatever it is, money, and of course happiness. For that only people are always trying and doing and starving and of course even toiling by that. Without knowing the beautiful life, without enjoying the beautiful life, they are dying, and of course they will die before get everything. So here it offered riches and joys, shelter and food, heat and clothing, exactly as the writer offered cheese and pork. And as soon as anyone let himself be tempted to touch the bait, it closed in on him, and then everything came to an end. This is a philosophy. You understand that? From the beginning, I'm just reading once again, you can also travel along with me. So once upon a time, there was a man who went around selling small rattles of wire. He made them himself at odd moments from the material he got by baking in the stores or at the big farms. But even so, the business was not especially profitable. So he had to resort to both baking and petty thieveries to keep body and soul together. So even so, his clothes were in rags, his cheeks were sunken, and hunger gleamed in his eyes. No one can imagine how sad and monotonous life can appear to such a vagabond who plods along the road, left to his own meditations. And but one day, this man had fallen into a line of thought which really seemed to him entertaining. And he had naturally been thinking of his rat traps when suddenly he was struck by the idea that the whole world about him, the whole world with its lands and seas, its cities and villages, was nothing but a big rat trap. It had never existed for any other purpose than to set baits for people. It offered riches and joy, shelter and food, heat and clothing, exactly as the rat trap offered cheese and pork. As soon as anyone let himself be tempted to touch the bait, it closed in on him, and then everything came to an end. You understand that? Likewise, here you can also see that. The remaining we will discuss in tomorrow's class.